Hi, Aaron. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm pretty good, thank you. I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview with me.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Is it more like a career class or what's the? I don't have much context on. I guess your desire to chat.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm in Bow Valley College to advance film production,
Okay, cool.
and we can use this for our portfolio for anything really.
Very cool. And how far along are you on the program?
I'm currently in my fourth semester, almost done it, and then I'll be in my fifth semester, and then my final semester will be the sixth one.
Right on, man. Well, yeah, it's not a problem, man. It's funny. So I do cam up on I don't know more than half the jobs I DP. Some jobs obviously they're bigger and there's camera operators that come, and then there's some small stuff that I do by myself. So I kind of do everything, yeah, in between. So I wasn't sure. I just wanted to make sure it kind of fit what you were, if you were talking to the right style, that's kind of
Yeah, don't
touching
worry.
on that's all.
Don't worry, you're perfect. You're just the man I was looking for.
Okay, right on, man. No sweat.
So,
Um,
sorry.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, feel free to fire away.
So before we begin, tell me a little bit about yourself, if you don't mind.
Yeah, well, I work as a cinematographer in direction photography. As of like kind of over the last 5 years, I've mostly just been shooting TV commercials for the most part. I do shoot narrative, and I love narrative filmmaking. But I've got a small family, young kids, and that kind of style of work-life balance is pretty tricky because it's really long days. Um, I haven't done a narrative project for a year or two now, but I love narrative storytelling and filmmaking. And I've always had a passion for filmmaking ever since I was a teenager. Uh, Not to date myself, but in the 90s, I took a film class at the Calgary Independent Film Society. So it was actually like a teen summer camp where we shot actual film. And yeah, I was just kind of hooked from the early days. And I started kind of as a little like skateboard, snowboard filmmaker before anybody had iPhones and stuff. I was the only guy with like a little high-end camera. And I shot a lot of action sports stuff in my early days. And yeah, I kind of shot everything, kind of a vast range of stuff over my career. But generally, I like shooting things like filmmaking with intention, is kind of how I like to put it. So when there's a purpose and a mandate and some creative intention on the images that you're capturing and creating. So I don't do like event videography. I don't do any sort of like event stuff. Mostly stuff where there's, shot design, lighting design, and things like that.
Wow, that's awesome. Honestly, yeah, I also started back in high school as well. I was given the opportunity to work on some sports videos myself as well.
But very cool, right on.
Thank you. So, going right into it, I want to first ask you, how did you get started in the industry and how old were you when you started?
Yeah, well, I mean, so industry, I mean, do you mean that by like the first paid gig I had, or?
Like, really, what got you interested in turning this into a job pretty much for you?
I mean, I definitely had desires, filmmaking desires as a teenager. And I went to film school quite early. I went to the Vancouver Film School when I turned 19. So I had the drive quite early. One kind of like situational thing that was great. When I graduated, it was a really bad time. It was in 2005, and the Canadian dollar was good for Canada, but bad for film production. It was worth the same as much as an American dollar, and there was no film production whatsoever coming in from America. So Vancouver was very slow during that time, so it was kind of hard. It was hard to get on a set, let alone like it was hard to work for free, let alone like get paid. Uh, my first couple jobs out of film school, I worked a lot for free, and then I was lucky enough. I had a contact at Panavision, and they're like a really big camera rental house. And after being very persistent, they gave me a job, and that was kind of my first. I had a couple small paid gigs maybe prior to that, so if you consider that the industry. But I worked at a rental house called Panavision for kind of I don't know, maybe like for 20 when I was 20 and 21. So in my early 20s, I worked there, and that was kind of my first thing. And then while I was working at Panavision, I was also still like shooting passion projects and collaborating with other filmmakers. I had a couple small jobs. I probably worked for I don't know cheap or back then minimum wage was $5, so it wouldn't have been much. But those those were kind of my first kind of paid opportunities, and kind of my first kind of like step into the industry after film school.
I see. And how old were you again? Sorry.
I went to film school when I was 19. I graduated when I was 20, so it was a 1-year intensive program at BFF. So I was in my 20s, 21, 22, somewhere around there.
I see. So this might be a confusing question, but what's a typical day for you in the job? Like a day of a life, pretty much.
Also, not such a straightforward question because so many jobs are different. So, like in the context of like a commercial, context of like I'm shooting a small little something video, or in context of kind of like what style, because there's so many disciplines, right, of filmmaking, and there is why I love filmmaking. I mean, this is kind of the opposite answer to your question, but no day is the same. And for someone like myself, that's interesting to me, and I like that. Some people love repetitive things. Like, I'm sure if you're a camera operator at a Flames game, every day is the same. You arrive, you set up, unload the cable, have your lunch break, shoot the game, wrap out. But I think when you work as a freelancer, it's not that. So there is no day. There is no typical day.
So what are some challenges you had to face in your job?
In terms of what?
Like a struggle. If you were used to one camera, but then had to learn a completely different camera right out the spot, would that be like a struggle for you, or was it no problem, pretty much? That's
No, I mean, specifically to that, I would say no. I mean, I've kind of, because I started in, 20 years ago, I felt from like a technology standpoint that learning the technology was the easy part, how to use the camera. You could learn that in advance on your own. You could get the camera, you could rent it, you could press the buttons, you could figure out where everything is. That's one thing that you could control. So I've never really been afraid of working with new cameras. And I also like to joke, it's another thing that I joke about is that I'm camera agnostic. Like I don't just shoot on one style of camera, I shoot on all the brands and flavors, digital and film. There's maybe some cameras that are stronger or better choices for certain projects, but I never really get too frazzled with a different camera on a job. There's some projects I shoot or shorter projects where a production company may own a certain red camera, they want to shoot on that, that's fine. Or, I just did a commercial in the winter and we shot on a really tiny little Panasonic full frame, what's it called this? I never shot on it, but it was fine. So those kind of things don't faze me. I guess some things that can be troublesome on set or some challenges are, I guess, things that are out of your control. You get to a location and there's a whole bunch of people there and you can't film and you got to think on your toes and what are we going to do? Or we set up this big scene somewhere and there's a big city truck outside and it's no good for sound and the director doesn't want to replace the dialogue later. Like, what are you going to do? So those sort of things that are, and that happens with any job. There's things that will come up that will impact your day and how it's going to work. And I think it's really just like that, having a really open kind of team-making mindset in terms of just figuring it out as a group and making the strongest decisions for what's going to work for the film. So those are some challenges that a lot of the things that you can't really plan for. I think it's really just your attitude is what you can plan for, like how you're going to frame and solve things creatively and not get too bogged down by the problem, but just more about getting, I guess, just excited about finding the solution or the best solution. But filmmaking definitely has challenges, and it's not an easy craft, much like most art forms. But everything's manageable for the most part. So I don't know if that answered it, but yeah.
I know you answered perfectly. Better than what I would have given personally, but.
Oh, it's all good now. No sweat.
So, what are some technical skills needed for success in your position?
Well, speaking to like the basic level of like camera operation, obviously knowing how to use said camera. That's just a technical thing, right? Like how do I charge it? How do I upload the files? how do I change all the settings, shutter speed, exposure, ISO, f-stop, how do we keep the thing in focus? So there's that kind of like base level, as well as you start to grow and kind of, widen your lens in terms of your scope. But how does the lights work? How does the power work? How do we keep things safe on set? Those sort of technical components. And then, as you start to grow, you start to learn about color grading and how to augment the image. There's some things on set where you can spend 20 minutes moving a little piece of film here, or maybe you can fix it digitally later, and it's a very easy fix, whether it's like making a certain part darker of the image, or, if it's a small little thing and the camera, isn't moving, maybe it's an easy thing to digitally paint out later, rather than move a whole bunch of stuff while there's 20 people standing around. So I think over time you start to learn those kind of more advanced things. But in the beginning, just the basic technical stuff of the basic shot composition and how to use the camera, the more technical stuff, less creative things within kind of the film industry.
Yeah, for sure. So I won't take up too much of your time. I just have a few more questions for you, if that's okay. So to wrap things up, I'm going to combine these into one question. But what advice do you have for students looking into become a camera operator? And what red flags do you have for students to avoid as a camera operator?
Yeah, I think obviously try to always be over-prepared, and whatever that means to you. But, if you're working on some camera, geek out as much as you can online about it, watch videos. There's pretty much a tutorial for everything these days on YouTube. Another thing I say to most, just not even camera operators, people in the film industry, is always try to arrive 10 minutes early to set, never be late. That's kind of like a big no-no. So I always try to get there 10 minutes early if you can. Those are kind of two great things. And also realize that don't make things quite like a collaborative, family-based thing, and sometimes you're in very small spaces. So just really thinking about how you conduct yourself, not just the work you do, but how you interact with other people, your attitude, and things like that, because that's just as valuable as like the quality of your work, but also just like how you interact and communicate with people. So being a clear and easy communicator, I think it's funny because everybody keeps that in film school. It takes you a decade to figure that one out. And I think indirectly they do teach you that because you're obviously working with people and you're collaborating and such, but it's such a big part of it in terms of just how to communicate your idea, and how to receive other people's ideas constructively and still work towards a common goal. So I think those are some kind of great things that you can focus on early in your career.
Definitely. And I do agree. It is for sure. Well, Aaron, I just want to say thank you again so much for taking the time to do this interview with me. You saved me from failing a class of mine.
All good, man. No worries. When I was a similar age, I did the same thing. I didn't necessarily reach out to somebody and have like a career talk, but definitely reached out to some people further along in their career, and they were gracious enough to lend their time, so I'm happy to pay it forward, so no worries.
For sure. Once I have this edited and finished, I will send it your way.
Oh yeah, all good. I appreciate that. Thanks so much, and have a great day. Good luck with the project.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Okay, take care.
You too. Bye-bye.